Professor Richter, it's so complicated, everything what we're talking about, and the international business law is so complex. Can you see it's like a labyrinth here? You cannot find a way. Wait. How do you get the basic knowledge? This is the most important thing, and I will show you now a technique. So to get the most important topic, first go through the topics we were talking about this semester. So the first topic, or the topic number 3, because topic number 1 is the method and the second one is the basic knowledge, and we are now, this is a technique how you find out the basic knowledge, and it's about the other chapters. It's about the chapter 3 until then chapter number 10. So as you know, my Richter scheme is always focused on 7 questions, so 7, yes. So that means first you must find out the most typical constellations. So one of the first things you always have to ask, if you have a case here, does the case have any international dimension? So is there any relation to foreign countries, or is it between two independent countries, between Germany and United States? The next question is always, which country is the right place to sue, in Germany or, for example, in the United States? One of the most important questions then is, which court, if you have decided the first one or the second one, so all these questions are related to each other, right? If we have an international dimension, then you have to find out which country is the right place to sue. And then if you find the country, if you find out which country is responsible or is the right place to sue, then you have to find inside this country which court is responsible for the case. And if you find out which court is responsible, you have to find out which law of the country is applicable. And then the next thing, you have to find out what are the most important problems here. So the legal problems. So which, well, let me just have a different, what are the legal problems of the case, right? And so on. So this are typical constellation or typical questions in the beginning. The second part, you should always find out the common terms. And of course, this has a relation to the question we want to solve. For example, we have here the question of the international relation of a case. For this, you must know which forms of international business do we have. So if you have the book here from Schaffer, for example, you will find in the part 1, and there it says the legal environment of the international business, you find the forms of international trade. And it's very important in the beginning that you find out, okay, is this now a case with focus on trade, on licensing, or on foreign direct investment? Because in each of these forms, you have different rules who are important. The next thing is you should find out which common risk of international business came out in this case. For example, is this a problem of the distance on logistics or the language and cultural differences? For example, in the case Tarbert, there we have some cultural differences who are really turn out in this case. Or is there cross-border trade controls who gives the case the problems? Or do we have a currency risks? Or do we have problems with obtaining professional assistance in the other country, and so on? The next part, or the next thing you should focus on, is the jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is who is responsible for this case, which court is responsible for this case. And so we have different forums, and here are some technical terms: form of non-convenience, form of selection clause. And sometimes we have also the question of which law is applicable in which place. So I would maybe also give them here his own, I would say this is an own thing that we should always differentiate here. definitely say, yeah. So we have here some rules. If you have some rules, and to find out the conflict of law, so which law is applicable to the case. So for example, national law, or for example, we have here international treaties, etc. And this leads us now to the next part. Just go back here. Yeah, these are the conflicts of law. So we need, of course, we need some more terms here. And, you know, we are in the part here. So these are the terms for the solution of the case. Of course, we need here some special terms, and this is, it always depends always on the case, right? What is the case about? For example, the Tarbet case is about a certificate of origin, and it's a contract of sales and so on. But let's go on here. So if you want to find out which law is applicable, you have always to find out, and this is the third part of the Richter scheme, the provisions. We have some special provisions here in international law. So we have international treaties and conventions. We have sometimes international custom, or we have principles of laws, or we have decisions of international courts and tribunals, or we have writings of some respected jurists and legal scholars, or we have sometimes comparative law, or sometimes we have national law, right? And so on. So these are the basics, and you have always to find out, is there in the special case, do these provisions, is there any answer in these provisions who gives us a help for this case? Next part is, the fourth part is that you have to find out the usual parties who are involved and find out which rights they have and which duties. For example, you always start please with the plaintiff. What does he want? What are his rights? And then the defendant, what is his rights or his duties? And did he something wrong? And which court do we have? Do we have a national court or an international court? And so on. And we have also other parties. The key numbers are always related to the case. So I would always start with a chronological order of what happened here in the case. For example, the contract conclusion date. So we have a lot of dates always, right? But of course, we have also the cost of the goods, the cost of the courts. Sometimes we have some penalties. So we have to find out what are the most important numbers here. Okay, after these 5 steps, we have collected a lot of stuff, and now you can give me some recommendation and schedule for action. So the first thing is here international law? So is this international case? I would say, is this an international case? Do we have an international case? Then which country? Where should we go to get a decision of a court? And which court of country is responsible? Which law of the country? What does the plaintiff claim? And so on, right? You give me here some recommendation for action. Good. And in the last one, in the last part here, of course, we have to talk about typical samples. That means, for example, here in this sample, we should talk about the contract. So the sales contract of sales. And for example, in the case of Tarbert, one of the first cases, there we had a problem with a certificate of origin. So these are typical samples that we have to discuss, and sometimes, or in the real world, you have then to find out which regulations should be in the contract of sale who are good for the defendant, or which clauses would be good for the plaintiff, right? Okay, so that's how you, in the next weeks and months, should gather all the most important basic knowledge. So if we go, for example, then further to the contract law, please find out what are the typical case constellation, the terms, the provisions, who are helping you always to solve cases. The same, please do in the International Transport Law chapter, the International Financing Law chapter, International Management Law, Distribution Law, and of course, intellectual property law and intellectual production law. So these parts, you fill then this document more and more with the things that you found out in the cases. Okay, thank you very much. This is how you will find all the basic knowledge. To sum up, I would like to tell you that, of course, it's very individual how you learn. If you watch more videos or read more the cases or read in the internet, but you should always know the terms, the provisions, the participants, the numbers, the checklist, and the formulations. And please take the next few weeks time to work on the content of this online course. Make a schedule for the homework, come to the online meetings regularly, and record your process. So write always templates for each topic and each chapter so that you can then in the exam and later in real world, that you have always something in the background which helps you to solve these cases. Thank you very much.